Hi guys, good to have you back on the DIY Guy, and today I'm going to show you how to put an LED wall mirror in your bathroom. You know, one of them fancy mirrors with the LEDs round the side, just like this. But before we get started, just hit the subscribe button for me because you'll probably forget to do that later. And you're not going to want to miss some of the other DIY, electrical, plumbing type tips that are on this channel. So make sure you subscribe. Give me a like or drop me a comment. That really helps this video reach more people and help more people on YouTube. Before we get started, please make sure that if you're undertaking any electrical work yourself, you have a good understanding of electrical components and circuits, and that you're confident to do this work yourself. And if you are doing it yourself, make sure that any circuits you're working on are safe so that you're not going to give yourself any nasty shocks. Also, this video is purely for instructional purposes, and the regulations here in the UK do state that any electrical work in bathrooms should be done by a qualified electrician. So how are we going to get power to this mirror? The mirror is going to be here above the sink. Obviously your mirror is going to vary, so you're going to need to decide where you want the mirror. We need to take the power from a permanent live somewhere. The most practical circuit to take that permanent live from will be the lighting circuit for the bathroom. So in this house in particular, these are stud walls. So all I need to do is go up into the loft, find a permanent live on the lights and drop a wire down inside this stud wall and bring it out behind the mirror so that we can power the mirror, and we'll wire it straight into the back of the mirror. So I'll show you how to do all that. But what you do need to consider, if you are doing this in a bathroom, I'm guessing you probably are, is that you'll really want this mirror to be on an RCD protected circuit. So the first step I'd recommend you do is dummy up where your mirror needs to go, level it up, make sure it's in the centre of the room or wherever you want it to be, and that way you can see where you need the wiring to come through the back of the mirror, and you can mark that position on the wall. What I would say, if you don't have a stud wall, you're going to need to make more of a mess because you're going to need to chase out an area where you can actually bring that wire down. There's then a lot more work to do because you're going to want to put cap in over that wire, and then you've got a lot more repairs to do on the wall itself. So that's not ideal, but it is an option for you. So I've marked up here where my wire needs to come out of the wall, and that will allow the wire to come through the wall and into the back of the mirror. So we need to make that hole to retrieve our wire. When we drop it down from the loft space above, we're going to use a hole cutter for that, but you'll need to make that hole big enough that you can actually get in there and retrieve that wire. Don't make a hole so big that you can't cover it up with the mirror afterwards. But the usual rules for drilling into walls do apply here. Make sure there's no pipe work or any electrics inside that wall before you go drilling a hole in it. And there we go, that's a big enough hole to now retrieve that wire when we drop it down from above. Right, so what we need to do now, we need to make a hole above the cavity here, and we need to make sure we don't miss and come out in the room. So the best way to do that is to grab hold of a feature that you'll be able to see within the loft. Now in this case that'll be that spotlight there. I'll measure back off that because I'll be able to see that in the loft, take the same measurement and then make my hole on that measurement, and that hole will hopefully come out above this cavity. So make sure you drill this next hole in the right place. Okay, let's head up into the loft and make that hole to drop our cable down. Right guys, so we're up in the loft. If you are doing this, it might be a good idea to lay some boards down so that you don't go falling through the ceiling, through the plasterboard, because at the minute I'm just standing on joists. However, I am used to doing this so I can balance and work at the same time. But if you're new to this and not that confident, I'd probably lay some boards down just to make sure you don't make any mistakes and go falling through. So what I'll do now is I'll measure off that light so that I drill my hole in the correct place. I'll mark that up, and then I don't have enough hands, so I'll show you where that mark is and where I'm going to drill that hole, and then we'll be able to drop that cable down into that cavity. Now I'll be showing you some wiring in a moment and how to wire this up, but for now let's just get this hole drilled. But you can see the spotlight here, and you can see I've measured from that spotlight over to here, and that little mark there is where I'm going to make my hole. That will be above the wall cavity so that we can drop the wire down. And there you go, I've drilled a 10mm hole which leads down into that cavity, and what we'll do now is we'll drop our wire down into that hole and we'll go and retrieve it the other end. You want enough length on your cable to wire it into the light fitting that you're wiring into. Now there is a light rose just there we could wire into, or there is a junction box for the spotlights just there which is a lot easier to access, so we'll take a permanent live off of that one. But you can take a permanent live off of any circuit that's RCD protected. Grab yourself some 1mm twin and earth. That's the wire we're going to need to drop down into that wall cavity, and that'll be enough to power our mirror. Right, that's our 1mm twin and earth drop down into that cavity, and you can see I've left enough length there to wire that into the nearest permanent live on the upstairs lighting circuit, so I don't end up cutting a bit and it ends up too short. So leave plenty of length, and now we'll go down into the bathroom and retrieve the other end of that wire. And there you go guys, you can see our wire. All we need to do is grab hold of that, so grab the end, okay, and leave that wire nice and long, so you've got a nice long tail to play with for now. Okay, so now we've got that wire hanging out of the wall, we need to figure out how we're going to connect it up. Now this mirror here is a bit scratched up because it's been put on the wall before. There's a frame and then there's a front to the mirror. Yours will probably differ, but one thing they will have in common with, they're likely to have some sort of gland like this one. Okay, so it's got a gland with a 0.75mm piece of flex coming out of it. Now there's two choices. You could either remove the gland and put twin and earth right through, and on the other side what we could do is bring twin and earth through here and wire it into this block connector. Now the likelihood is you'll have one of these block connectors somewhere, so you just need to bring your wire in, put neutral to neutral, earth to earth and live to live in that block connector. However, like this one, it may already be done for you with a piece of flex. There is, however, one more way to do this. You could grab hold of the other end of this piece of flex and you can connect it to the twin and earth, put it in a junction box and put it inside the wall, which is the way I'm going to do it because I don't want to remove this gland here. I'd rather keep that in place and keep this piece of flex wire where I can. So I'll just cut this, so I'll cut this flex a little bit shorter and connect it into a lighting Wago box. So if you're not going directly into the back of the mirror and you're going to be connecting twin and earth to flex wire like I am, I'd recommend a Wago box. This is a lighting Wago box. I'll put a link to one in the description for you, and also some little Wago connectors to put inside the box. So grab the end of the twin and earth that we dropped down the wall, grab the Wago box lighting connector, measure off half the distance between the box and strip back some wire. Just strip back the conductors, put a little bit of earth sleeving on there, put some Wago connectors on the ends of these wires. If you want to see a bit more about what Wago connectors I recommend, I do have a video detailing Wago connectors on the channel. I'll put a little link at the top of the screen now so you can check that out. Leave that hanging long for now. Now you probably have a template with your mirror, but I'm rehanging this so I don't have a template to actually attach this to the wall. But hopefully you've got a template which makes this easy for you. If you don't, you're going to have to do what I'm doing here and actually measure out where the hooks are on the back of that mirror so that you can put some screws in the wall to hang it onto. Right guys, like I say, hopefully you've done this off a template. If like me you couldn't, once you're confident that you've got the measurements correct and that you're going to be putting your wall fixings in the correct place, go ahead and put those wall fixings in. Now I'm not going to run through lots of different types of wall fixings. There's plenty of videos available where you can see how to drill into a wall. Obviously good practice to check what's behind that wall before you go screwing these in. I'm going to be using these plasterboard fixings. If you are going on to just plasterboard, make sure that you're using some good fixings because you don't want it to fall off the wall. So go ahead and put those in. Now what I can do is I can separate the mirror frame from the mirror glass itself so that I can mount that on the wall, and I'll be able to wire that up and place that on the wall before fixing the mirror to the frame. Okay, so before I mount the mirror frame to the wall, what I'll need to do is connect the wiring up. So grab hold of those connectors that we put on there earlier. Obviously we go live to live. Then we get our neutral wire, do the same. Give it a push all the way in. Make sure the connectors come back fully, and that is solid, and the same with the earth wire. Grab hold of the Wago box, push the wire inside that Wago box. You can see that everything's in that junction box nicely. Snap that shut. For now that can just be hanging there like that, and we'll push that up into the wall. That's why you need to use one of these Wago box light boxes, because if you use the normal Wago box it won't fit in some of these 40mm cavity stud walls. So I'd recommend the light version of the Wago box. Right, what we need to do now is lift the frame and push that wiring and Wago box up into the hole that you've made. There we go. So that's now up inside the wall. You'll then be able to lift this frame onto those screws. So as you can see, the frame's now attached to the wall. On all 4 of those anchor points that I installed earlier, we need to check that the frame's level, because we're going to attach the glass to this now, and if the frame's not level, the glass won't be either. So wire up any wiring into the back plate, finish up any of the mains wiring, put the covers back on and things like that. And then what we're going to do is lift the glass in place and put the retaining screws in the side here, which will hold the mirror on the wall. Unfortunately, because of the space here, it's going to be really hard to record this, so I'll probably just end up doing this and showing you the final result. And that's the first part of the process. Now what we'll do, we'll head up into the loft and I'll show you how to wire that mirror up into a permanent live from the lights. Right, so back up in the loft now, bring your wire across to your nearest light fitting. That might be a rose fitting, or it could be, like my case, a junction box. So like I said at the start, make sure the power's off and the circuit you're working on is safe. And give that a check with a volt pen. Got no power there, so we're safe to go ahead. Open your junction box up, or if you're doing this on a rose, just find the permanent live. Now, depending on when your house was built, your live wire will either be brown or it will be red. What you don't want to choose is a switched live. The way to tell a switched live is it will have a piece of brown sleeving on it normally. So in this case, all we need to do is to connect into the permanent live terminals here, the neutrals here, and the earths. We don't need to touch the switched live. So cut off the length of wire that you require, strip that wire back, put that bit of earth sleeving on the earth wire, and then all you need to do is connect into the live terminal. In this case, these are push fit Wago connectors, so they're really easy to use, but you might be having to use terminal blocks, or in some cases you might be doing this on a rose fitting, in which case I do have other videos on the channel which I'll link now, where you'll be able to find out how to identify the permanent live in a rose fitting. I also have a video on the channel where you can learn how to use other varieties of terminal blocks, and I'll link that above as well. So put your neutral wire in, and we now need to put a 5th earth wire in, so we'll chop this one off, strip these back, and put a new connector on there. And then this is the earth for our new piece of wire. Put that in as well, and there we go. We have all of our earths linked up, all of our lives linked up, all of our neutrals linked up, and these are switched lives for the bathroom lights. And there you go, all the wires are now crammed in that Wago box. Once your junction box or Wago box is closed up, all we need to do is go and test our new mirror. Right, once you've got that permanent live into the live feed and you're sure it's safe, turn the power back on and check out your new mirror, and you should have power. And there you go, just like that. And there you go guys, it's as easy as that. That's our mirror installed. And like I said before, there's plenty of supporting videos on the channel. I'll put a link to my electrical playlist just at the top of the screen there. So should you need to see any further tips, you can go and check those out. And if the video's helped you out, make sure you smash the like button, because that helps this video reach and help more people on YouTube. I've been the DIY guy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.